What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P back here with another episode of the Steelers Touch Under. I know it's been a couple of weeks. It's actually been like 2 games since we did a video on the channel. To all our regular listeners, subs of the channel, I just want to say my apologies for that. I traveled for business overseas for about a week, and I just did not have the time in a different time zone to be able to record videos, unfortunately. And I came back, and it has been absolutely nuts on all fronts. But really videos. I have been watching, obviously, the Steelers games. Have been keeping up with everything as well. So it's been frustrating to not have the chance to be able to talk to you guys about a number of things that I'm seeing. We will get back to that this week. But here to talk about 5 keys to victory. That is the focus of today's video. 5 keys to victory for the Steelers against Cincinnati Bengals after dropping last week's game to the Cleveland Browns to go. It was tough. Watching that. It was tough watching that in the snow. It was tough watching it when it was close. But it's interesting. A former colleague of mine back when I was with Steel Curtain Network, Jeffrey Benedict, he's talked about this before, about the fact that when you're AFC North matchups, the team that plays at home on Thursday night in those AFC North matchups usually wins the game. And when you go through the stats, that's a lot of what's there. But the Steelers have a lot to clean up if they're going to be able to close out the season with victories and to be able to beat a number of the teams they're going up against. They are capable of beating every single team they are going to be playing for the rest of the season. It's really good and really interesting to see in about 7 hours' time or so, as I'm recording this, how they go against the Cincinnati Bengals as well. But the Steelers can beat every team on their schedule. They just have to do things right. And that starts this week. Let's get into the 5 keys to victory. Now, the first one I want to start off with is third down conversions. And it's going to go lead to, it's probably one key to victory, which I'll just tell you now is like offensive output. The Steelers' offensive output has not been good enough. But let's talk about third down first. So if you go back since the bye, against Washington, third down conversions was 7 of 16. Remember that number, 7 of 16, just shy of 50%. I think it was like 45%, I think is something it works out to be. Then against Baltimore, they were 4 for 16. 4 for 16, 25%. That is not good enough in the NFL. If you want to be a team, a playoff contender, you need to be hitting high 40s, get as close to that 50% as possible. Then against Cleveland, 7 for 16 again. Now, what the 7 for 16 number is exactly the same we saw against the Washington Commanders. That was a 1-point win. This was a 5-point loss for the Steelers in losing the game against the Browns. Now, there is some moments in that game you could argue there was, a touch. The Steelers could have won that game. That was there. I'll just say. But the thing is, they're going to have to convert these because they're not converting enough of the third downs in the moments that matter. And that's a problem. So my number one thing is third down. I want to see greater than 50% against the Bengals. That will help you hold that football. It will help you put their offense under pressure to perform against a really good Steelers defense. But then we're going to go to the second key to victory there because that feeds into the third down conversion. And that is around sacks. The Steelers were sacked 3 times for 23 yards against Washington. They were sacked 4 times for 24 yards against Baltimore. And then they were sacked 4 times for 22 yards against Cleveland. So almost allowed 11 sacks over the course of every single game since the bye, all 3 games. That's 3.3 sacks a game, and I think it works out at just under, it works out at 22.5 yards or something, because it was 22 yards, 24 yards, and then that was 23 yards. So the thing about that for the Steelers is that what that means is that then they're putting the situations where on third down they might have converted to get into scoring range. They're not getting that opportunity. Or number 2, they've been forced to kick field goals, and we know that they beat the Ravens with Boswell just kicking field goals. I think he kicked, was 3 or whatever against Cleveland. That's not going to be good enough to win week in, week out, particularly if a team comes out in a shootout. And that is how you drop games against teams you should beat. Even when we go back to looking at last year when they dropped to the Cardinals and the Patriots, and there was another game they dropped in that mix as well. So they need to get the third down conversion right, and the best place to start with that comes down to making sure that Russ, or if Fields is in a package, stays upright. Absolutely. Now, I should have said third down as well in conversions. The Steelers have not converted well on fourth. They were 1 for 2 against Washington. They were none, well, sorry, they were 0 for 1 against Baltimore, and then they were 1 for 3 as well. So that actually feeds into that third down and not being able to sustain drives. And there was the weird thing where Fields slid, obviously, against Cleveland. So, number one, convert on third or fourth down. Number two, stop the sacks. Stop the sacks. 2 sacks or less against Cincinnati. They need to arrest that number. We don't want to see, if we saw another 4 sacks, that would be like 15 over the course of 4 games. That is not going to win you. That is not going to. It's not going to win you games, particularly in a tight AFC. Particularly at the top of those teams vying for the playoffs. All right, I want to get to the third key to victory. The third key to victory is scoring. Right? It's scoring. Their rushing offense, they're 16th best in the league. They're mid-pack with 10 rushing touchdowns. But remember, that's all like practically Fields was doing. That's all where we were getting a lot of touchdowns in the first half of the season. They're 25th in passing TD offense. 25th out of 32 teams. It's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. Now, they're third in interceptions, right? That's excellent. But you got to, I would rather, they've got 3 passing interceptions on the year and 12 passing TDs. 12 passing TDs. We've got to see from the Steelers more TDs. I don't mind if we see more interceptions with it. As long as the ratio's 2.5 to 1 or better, the team's going to go far. Right now it's 4 to 1, right? But then there's no firepower there. So that's got to change. And hopefully they can work Mike Williams better into the offense this week. And we see that. And that's really beneficial. But from my sort of sense of things, at the moment, we're just not scoring enough. And I feel like I talk about this all the time. I feel like I do. I feel like we talk about this all the time, that the Steelers just do not score enough points. And it's just got to be fixed. So that's the third takeaway there. Now, I wanted to go to defense because I saw this week, and it's kind of alarming when we talk about the defense of the Steelers, because it's alarming because it's not traditional for where the Steelers are at. It's not traditional, and it's something that when you think about the Steelers and you think about what the Steelers are known for, it's sacks, right? It's Pittsburgh. Now, Teacher Watt 7.5 on the year, Cameron Howard 5, Nick Herbig 3.5, Highsmith 3. I think it's 16 years so far. It may not even finish with 40 sacks. This is a team that when I think was 4 seasons in a row of 50 plus sacks, particularly if your offensive line is letting the other team get to your quarterback. TJ's held every game like numerous times. But it's pretty low of what we're seeing right now. They've got to find a way to get that going. Even quarterback hits like 76. They're only converting every one of those into a. Could be better. So sacks is my other area there. Is my fourth key to victory. You Joe Burrow, you sack him, you're going to be good. You sack whoever they have to put a quarterback, you're going to be good. You sack whoever's going to be a quarterback in any games, including Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes this season, you're going to be good. So that's my other key one, is just make sure on the fourth key to victory, got to get some sacks. I want to see 5 sacks plus in this game. I just do. And with that, we're going to talk about interceptions. Interceptions was something we saw through the sort of toward the end of the first third, if you like, of the season, or the second quarter of the season. We started to see some interceptions. We've started to see that, and obviously we saw that against like Washington, what have you. We're seeing that start to fall back a bit. I think in this game, 2 interceptions, you're going to be able to get that victory. That is also going to take the pressure off having to get the third down conversions. I really want to get back to seeing the Steelers get some more regular. The 12 so far on the season. It's not bad, but I would love to see this ratio be over sort of a 1.3 plus over the course of the season, especially when you are relying. It's like the sacks.
it's not about just hitting these on the stat sheet, but it's what they say about the level of defense you're playing beyond just allowing not many points scored. But those are my 5 keys to victory. You let me know in the comments. Is there something else I've missed? Is there one of these that's more important than the other? I'm excited to be back doing videos for you guys. We'll go back in the swing of things. We've also started getting to that point of season where, we've kind of got to start talking about college prospects in a few weeks' time, regardless of what the Steelers do in the playoffs. It's always scouting. It's always on. But excited to be back doing videos for you all. And as always, go Steelers.